to the MindShift Show. I am your host, Pamela E. Bloomfield, and I help professional women over 40 who have everything else figured out except themselves, so they can stop performing success, unbury their purpose, and start living it from the inside out, guided by my ICAN framework. And very recently, I have started with the AI supported reflection to make clarity more faster and easier. Today, I have joining me a very special guest. Her name is Debbie Simmons. And I'll tell you a little bit about Debbie so you can get familiar with her before we start our conversation. Debbie is a keynote speaker, author, leadership strategist, and CEO of Anchor Point, known as the Legacy Architect, who guides high capacity leaders from success into significance and lives of lasting impact. Her work is built on the architecture of trust, the principle that where you place your trust determines both your success and the legacy you build. Through her proprietary framework, the Obedience Engine, Debbie equips executives and entrepreneurs to align identity, leadership, and decision making so clarity and momentum replace pressure and burnout. She is the author of The Heart of Legacy and the creator of the Vision Day Experience. See, you get to hear about that. That is a private leadership environment where leaders reset their trajectory and architect their next chapter. Debbie's message is simple. You were not designed to merely pursue success. You were created to leave a legacy worth living and leaving. Debbie Simmons, welcome to the MindShift Show. I'm so glad to have you.
I am excited to be here with you guys today.
Wonderful. So let's dive in. We're going to start talking about success versus significance.
Mhm.
And what I need to know from you today is this. Many women, over 40 especially, they feel successful on paper, but they're unfulfilled on the inside. How do you, Debbie, help someone recognize the difference between success and true significance? Tell us.
Sure. Well, that's a wonderful question to start with. And I would say not only do they look successful on on paper, the world might be cheering them on, telling them that everything is great. And still inside, they may be sitting there. And this is really the indicator for me is inside they are sitting there going, there's gotta be more. Is this it?
Uh-huh.
And those questions, when they resonate inside of us, it means a couple of things that, you have potentially outgrown what you're doing and you are getting ready for the next level
Mm-hmm.
in the position that you're in, or you need to pursue that outside of your position, but there is something more for you.
Yes.
And this is where significance is. So that wrestling feeling of is there more? I even remember as a college student walking across the campus, and I was close to reaching my goal of graduating as an engineer and all this stuff. And I walked across campus and I was thinking, you know, is this really all there is? All I have left is to go to work every day
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
for
Right,
the
right.
rest of my life. Is there, and not that that's bad because, it's going to provide, it's going to take care of me, it's going to give me opportunities. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I wanted to do something significant. And I couldn't at that age really figure out exactly what it was. And I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but it's just this wrestling
Yeah.
in your heart that you just keep going. There's just got to be more.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's got to
Because
be more.
right, because success for many is based on titles and based on
Mhm.
income and the external checklist that goes on and on. There's no end to that one. But I realize it actually leaves you feeling, let's see what the word is, hollow.
Yeah. And like, think about it. We even put these things on ourselves because, like,
Mm-hmm.
I set a goal for myself
Mm-hmm.
and I work really hard and I accomplished that goal. Well, that's self-induced, right? And it's a wonderful thing to pursue. And then it's like, okay, that didn't quite get me what I thought, right? And so I think, those are the ways to look at it. But generally, success is all about us and
Yes.
significance is about others.
Yes. Yes.
So
Now, now,
that's another indicator to help you figure that out.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. You created something called the architecture of trust. What
Mhm.
exactly is that?
Yeah, well, it's a great way to figure out what's going on inside too. So I look at it for us as leaders and individuals. We all say that we trust in something. Okay. And the way we know, so like the way we know that we trust something is
Mm-hmm.
when the pressure goes up in our lives, is that what we naturally default to? So,
Mm,
for instance, I'll just give you for me, I say, very clearly that I trust in God. Okay.
yes.
And so if I trust in God, as soon as the pressure goes up, what should flow out of me? Joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, all these things, right? Well, when the pressure goes up sometimes, guess what I do? I am a hustle girl and I'm a control girl, and I am going to try and manage everything. I'm going to overwork myself and just think that is totally opposite of joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. So I am saying I don't really trust God or trust that over there. I trust my ability to control and hustle. Now,
Mm-hmm.
here's the interesting thing. For most of us, control and hustle and of seeking validation, there's about five key ones that we do. When we do those things, a lot of times the world cheers for us.
Yes.
So I built a ministry that impacts thousands and get to be the CEO of it, which is a wonderful blessing. But guess what? I built a large portion of it off the fact that I can control and hustle. And that is wonderful as long as I can show up 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And 5 years ago, I got a beautiful injury in my leg that my body couldn't heal, and it totally shut me down. And
Yeah.
guess what? I couldn't show up.
Yeah.
And so when I couldn't show up, what did it reveal to my team, to myself? It revealed that we had what we call trust leaks. We had situations in our structure where I had been covering everything and making us successful, but we needed to put structure in
Mm.
so that we could go to the next level, so people could know that the leadership was aligned, that our decisions were, we had clarity on that, and we knew how to execute. And that is powerful for us. From that perspective, is to be able to have that. And it required, what we want to do is not require injuries like that
Right.
to
Right.
really do. So we can begin to look and see there was plenty of indicators ahead of time that
Yeah.
I could have caught that earlier if I'd have been more aware, right? And that's what we want to avoid. So I go, that's what it is. You
I
say you
love
trust
that.
something. What is it? And then when the pressure goes up, what do you do?
Yes. So it's more or less creating momentum over pressure.
hmm Yeah. So
So you can
pressure
keep going.
pressure is always the refiner for us. Okay. Pressure doesn't, indicate it really indicates for us where our structures are weak.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's a good thing because we
I
can
agree.
make adjustments and then go from there.
Yes. Yes. And so many professional women over 40, they live and you and I have talked about this. They live proving their worth
Hmm.
through the achievements. Now, how do you guide them from proving to simply being, living success from the inside out?
Yeah, that's great. And part of it is how do I move from the success to significance? Okay.
Yes.
Because as long as I am trying to just strive for more success, then I actually default myself into my own problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I hustle more, I control more, I do all those
Mm-hmm.
things. So the most powerful thing that can happen for women is for us a lot of times just to simply find a way that we can sit still, okay, and do evaluation of what is it that we want, we desire, that we are trying, that what in the end, what do we want people to say about us? What do we want in that dash between I was born in this year and I died in this year? What is it that I'm going to leave behind? We just don't stop
Yeah.
and think about those things. And women are especially bad about that because we often have children, grandchildren, we're very giving, and we don't think about like what this means for us personally. And
Right.
I think the most powerful thing we do, especially what I do with executives, is tell you stop.
Yes.
Just stop and let's sit for a second and let everything out of your head and just breathe,
Yes. Yes.
because we can do nothing if we cannot be creative.
Very
Okay,
true.
we can do our day to day, but we can't do anything new or think about anything big unless we just clear that noise out. And that's why some people say, "Oh, I can't go into the office because I get so distracted." Right? I
Mm-hmm.
get distracted and pulled a million different directions, which keeps me off of that focus that I need
Yeah.
to be on.
Yeah. Because proving keeps you
Yeah.
performing, right?
For
It
sure.
keeps you performing for external validation,
Hmm.
like the titles and the applause and the metrics. And but being is so much different because it's, to me, it's more rooted in the unchanging identity, right?
Hmm.
So success flows naturally from that point, from that point. So I help women, what I do, I help women, I help them to name their core truth first, just as you just said.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
who are you? What is the truth about you? What is it that you need to find out about you so that from there you can start building? And that's where
Hmm.
clarity comes in. So let's talk about burnout. Because that's a word that that's a feeling and an experience that we all go through. What
Hmm.
is one mindset pattern that traps high achieving women in trying to figure out um, pressure over their purpose?
We'll just go what mine is, okay? And
Yeah.
mine probably affects a lot of people, but
Okay.
I go for me in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I just go, I'll just take care of it.
Yeah.
I'll just handle it. I'll
Mm-hmm.
just pick up the piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep it, before you know it, I got 50 pieces. And I'm like, and that is that control and hustle girl.
Yeah.
Um, from that perspective is, like I remember times where, here's what I always have trouble with sometimes is when the pressure's on, like we have a large fundraiser or we're in the heat of battle, whatever it is, as a company or individuals, then I will go the heroic extra mile to make sure that we can successfully accomplish something,
Yeah.
me or as a team or whatever. Um, and I do that to the detriment of letting others grow in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if someone says, well, I can't get this done, da 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 da, whatever the excuse is, then I step in and just handle it. Well, I can literally going into a large event, literally not sleep for 6 or 7 days because I'm trying to handle everything, and
Mm-hmm.
the event will come off, but you know what? I found the next year, sometimes we're in the same space. And we're in the same space because that individual or our team did not learn to assume those. And even if we try and pre-plan it, it's only in the pressure that it comes out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I would say, burnout happens for me, and I believe happens for a lot of women because we we allow ourselves to pick up things that maybe we shouldn't be picking up.
yeah, yeah. We
And
carry too
and sometimes,
much.
yeah, and sometimes we do that because, a lot of times it's just easier.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about training. I don't have to worry about like taking the time with a person to
Hmm.
correct them. I can just get it done and check it off. And that's not necessarily the best thing for us.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because hustle, I think hustle proves worthiness,
Yeah.
just to a lot of us. And then the output is what we would say equals the value that keeps you running on empty.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to tire you out for sure, right? Because you're never going to get to replenish. And unfortunately, what I've learned is that as I've gotten older, I
Yeah.
don't recover as fast. So I'm learning, and it's really interesting. In this season of my life,
Yeah.
God actually is making me slow down more. And it's so weird because I seemingly have more things to accomplish, and God is saying, sit, stay
Mm-hmm.
still,
Mm-hmm.
listen, focus right here. And I'm like, are you sure? Because there's a lot of things to do.
Okay.
But it's been so good because as I've walked through things, I do have peace and I do have joy, and those are the more important things than just getting something in
Yeah.
particular done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's calling, I call it take the handcuffs off.
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
what we're doing to ourselves. We're putting the handcuffs on ourselves and blocking ourselves from growing.
Mm-hmm.
Now you tell me, how does identity influence the decisions that women, that they make over time when they have to make a decision? How does your identity influence that? Especially in
Sure.
midlife, where we are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've just labeled me at least a midlife. At least I'm not old yet. So
You're right, right,
that's a good thing.
exactly.
There you go. Your identity should drive everything. Okay. And if you are in a job and you are not able to do it out of your identity and who you believe you are and who you are uniquely called to be, then you are going to be very dissatisfied. You're definitely going to have that question rising up of, is there more? Is this
Right.
all there is? Because you are not being true to who you are. We can do that, and we can do that for a while, but we miss if we spend our lifetime doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
so our journey as we go through life should be always, how can I more and more align with who I am? And the more alignment that I have in job, family, work, whatever, then I am going to be more satisfied and I'm going to do things of more significance that live long past when I'm here on earth.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and if we
yeah.
look at it, remember, if you heard me talk just a little bit a while ago, I talked about walking across the college campus.
Right.
I was an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and I worked in that industry for many, many years. But that is not my totally true identity. And so it's God has taken me through my life. I have moved closer and closer and closer to who He's called me to be while I'm here on this earth.
Yes, yes. And that's totally my belief. You have to be able to find the purpose that God has put you on here for.
Hmm.
Because each of us has a purpose. Each of us has a calling. And it's
Yeah.
so important. So what the reason why I stress about identity, my framework is called ICAN. And the first part of that is who are you? Who are you called to be? Who are you now? And that's the first thing we have to identify because your identity equals safe choices.
Yeah,
When you're
that's
able
true.
to, yes, when you're able to identify whom God has made you to become in this world and the purpose that you are serving, then that's safe. You're safe. And going forward, then it anchors and
Yeah.
fuels the ventures and the conversations and the legacy work that you build over time.
That's so true. And I'll just drop this nugget for
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's familiar with Jamie Winship. He asked the question of what does God call you? Okay. And it's a simple exercise that gets to the identity issue of going, okay, God, what do you call me?
Mm-hmm.
And then just listening to what he says. And that will grow and change over time. But I remember the first time I did that, and he called me Princess Warrior.
Ah,
Okay. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? Because Satan will try and define that for us, but we need God to define it. So I was like, okay, what does that mean? What does the word princess mean? What does the word warrior mean? What does it mean when you put them together? What does
mm-hmm.
it look like when I do that right? And what does it look like when I do it wrong? And he always answers that last one. And I'm like, oh, okay. But, you think about all the things that I've done in my career. Princess really means I'm a child of the king,
Yes,
right? I'm daddy's girl. And I love that. Okay. And warrior means that I fight really for what is right. I will do what is right as I'm called to go. And those two things have really driven everything that I do
yeah.
from that perspective. And it's powerful because it's what he calls me, right? And it gets to your identity question, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What does building legacy look like practically in midlife?
hmm Well, I go, okay, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Right?
Uh-huh.
What do you want to leave? What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to say about you after you're gone? Um, and if you can tell me that, then I go, okay, how are you living that now?
Correct.
Okay. How do we live it out now? Because whatever we're living now is going to be the legacy that we're leaving. So, part of the reason that I started the nonprofit was because I sat down with a friend, I was talking to her, and I was like, hey, you want to do something crazy that will outlive us and will still be impacting people once we're
Mm-hmm.
gone?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, I love that idea. I'm like, oh Lord, we're both crazy, but it's okay. I'm like, okay. And that is how we started the ministry, which impacts thousands of people every year. Okay. And won't it be fun now that I'm getting older? I'm like, won't it be fun to go to the next level and be in heaven sitting by Jesus one day and I'm going, oh, look, there's another person that went to the minute to Anchor Point and they're being served and their lives are changing. And I look at him and I go, thank you for letting me be part of that. That is cool legacy, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And Jesus will be sitting right beside me. He'll be going, yeah, that was really cool. And I was like, yeah, that's super great. So whatever we want people to know, do, leave, whatever in the end, then we have to be living that out now.
Absolutely. So daily choices compound,
hmm
right?
Yeah.
Daily choices
Then,
compound.
just
Yes.
think about little steps. I always go, what's the next best step?
Yes.
And the next best step, just do it. Let God give you guidance and wisdom and redirect you, and He'll shine a light at your feet for the next step and take the next one. And, I just go, a journey over 1,000 steps is going to get you a long way, right?
Yeah. It's obedience to God too. Obedience to the path that He has already created for us. But the key is for us to listen,
Yeah.
right? It's
Mhm.
listening and obeying what he has put in place for us, right? So
Mhm.
those of us who are planning to write a book, if anyone is out there, anyone planning to start a business, just start. Just start.
Yeah.
There's a saying that says God helps those who help themselves.
Uh-huh.
Right. So just start, be obedient because obedience creates what I say momentum. Now, Debbie, break down the obedience engine for us, for someone who is feeling stuck.
Yeah. Okay. So first, to get out of stuck, I always like to do just a little bitty exercise that will
Uh-huh.
help. And that is, when we are stuck, we generally are asking a question of why. Why me? Why this situation? Why am I having to go through this? All these things. Okay. Um, God taught me a long time ago that I have to be willing to lay down the question why.
Mm,
And the reason is not because the question is a bad question.
right.
The question is a question that keeps us stuck because
Yes.
why is very internally focused. Okay. It's meant to drive us toward isolation, to depression, to all these things that spiral out of control. And
Mm-hmm.
the truth is, I learned this after holding my four boys as they passed into heaven. And I wanted to know why. Because it was the last thing that I had. Because remember, I'm a control girl, and if I just had the answer, this would make it better. And God was like, I need you to give me the why. And I was like, no, this is the
Yeah.
last piece I have. I
Yes.
have to have this answer. And if I have this answer, I can figure out how to go forward. And he was like, give it to me. And I wrestled with it. And finally, I was like, okay, I'll give you my why.
Mm.
And the truth is, this side of heaven, if God Himself would have been there with my kids when they passed away, standing in front of me and told me the why, my next question would be why? Because that answer ain't good enough. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this goes on forever and ever because you're never
Yeah.
going to. What the reason we ask why is because we want the circumstance to change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never going to
Mm-hmm.
change, right? It
Mm.
is the circumstance, unfortunately. And so I have to figure out how to give that up and trust God in that situation and then learn to ask the question of how do I survive? How do I survive and get through this? Because I don't know how.
Yeah.
And that simply is taking the next best step,
Yes.
whatever small step it is, over and over and over and over again. And then eventually you work through the grief in that as you're taking your next best step and you have people and friends praying for you and coming alongside of you. Then as you begin to heal, the question becomes not just how do I survive, but ultimately, how do I thrive?
Yes.
Okay. And thriving means I say, okay, God, you know the story of losing my boys. Can you take that and redeem that and make something of it?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to follow whatever you tell me to do in that
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want it to have just been a wonderful, painful opportunity for me to go through. I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be used for your glory so that others can come along. And ultimately, that's the seed that started Anchor Point in the end, okay, in my story. So I would go, if we're really, really stuck, that's probably the process that we're in. And that next best step, I use all the time,
Yes.
okay? Even now, as I'm not stuck in that, just to make my way every day, I'll sit here this afternoon and go, okay, what's the next best thing for me to do right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's super important. The obedience engine is simply that you say you trust something. When the pressure goes up, you're going to behave one way. Then we need to make micro kind of adjustments into like, if for instance, if I, hustle harder,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe I set time frames that I work in and then I release it and I do other things.
Yeah.
And so maybe that is one adjustment I can make. And then I go on back to living and guess what? The pressure is going to go up again. And when it goes up again, did my default change
That's
in a
right.
positive way?
That's right.
Okay. And then this is how we go through life and this is how we get better at learning what we really trust and how to walk. And you said something earlier about obedience is important. Well, in the Bible, God says, if you love me, you will obey me.
That's right.
And obedience is better than sacrifice.
There we
And I'm
go.
like, Lord have
There.
mercy. I gotta obey. I'm like, I don't want to obey, but I do love you. So how can I love you and not obey? So I think we make light of that sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the truth is if you love me, you will obey me. That is
Yes.
very clear. And
Yes.
that is what Jesus modeled for us, which is, what we ought to be modeling ourselves after.
Yes. And he said, yeah, you're right. He set the example because he obeyed his father. He said his will was to do the will of his
Will of the Father.
father.
Right.
And
That's right.
so
Yeah.
God is
Hmm.
our father. So
Hmm.
that should also be our will,
Hmm.
right? To do whatever he says. It also boils down to what drains you versus what lights you up,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So default, you mentioned default, so it's default versus design, and it's one step at a time towards whatever God has mapped out for you. So let's talk about a powerful step that our listeners can take this week: living by default and not by design.
Hmm. Yeah. So one is I got a couple of real quick ones. One is
Okay, go.
sit still and just listen.
Yeah,
Ask God who he calls you and where you're stuck and see what he says. That is
yeah,
so
yeah,
powerful
yeah,
for each one of us. And then ask him what he wants us to do about it. And he is faithful and just. And it was somebody told me the other day, double-minded, and when it talks about in James being double-minded, you can ask for wisdom, but then don't be double-minded and get blown back and forth. Okay. Listen to this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. Is that I go, okay, God, I need wisdom for this.
uh-huh,
And the God of the universe gives me wisdom.
uh-huh.
Okay. He says something, and I go, oh no. I'm not sure you heard me correctly, or that's really like way out there. Okay, that's double-minded.
Yes.
Okay, the double-minded is I ask the God of the universe for wisdom, and then I turn around and go, I don't think you understood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like going, we cannot be like that because God goes, don't ask me then.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll give it to you, but then the next thing is you have to be obedient.
Yes.
Right. And so I think those are the things. Sit still, ask him what he wants you to do and do it.
Yes. Sit still and wait. You
Hmm.
know that other scripture that says, "They that wait upon the
Hmm.
Lord shall renew their strength." Sit still, and while you're sitting still, just wait and watch. Be observant, because you know what? I realize that God gives us signs all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we
Hmm.
don't pick upon them.
Yeah.
And then
I go, he gives you little bitty signs. Well, at first he gives you big signs and then they
yes,
drift down to really little bitty ones.
yeah,
And so you want to catch them while it's like, oh my gosh, well, it's early. Catch that
yeah,
big one.
yeah. Traction starts small anyway. Traction
Yeah.
starts small. Okay, so what do you think? Well, you know the answer to this. Partnering with the right guidance. What does that look like for someone's next chapter?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, okay, if we want to know what you're going to look like in 5 years, tell me the top five people you're hanging with. Okay. And that will tell me who you're going to become. All right. I tell that to children and grandchildren all the time. Right. And I was talking with a teenager. She and I are reading through the book of Job together. And I was like, his friends were great at first, but then they weren't the friends. And so, who are the people you're hanging with? And for her, I was like, who are the older people who have traveled this earth a little bit more than you, that can also don't just get all 15-year-olds to be talking in your life. Get some older people. Same thing goes for me. Who are women who are further ahead than me in my journey, not necessarily age, but in my journey, that I should be aligning myself with,
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that I maximize this time that I have here and I don't waste it. So I would go, look for someone that you align with, that you click with, that can show that's further ahead than you,
Mm-hmm.
and someone that genuinely cares, someone that is not afraid to confront you, that still looks in your eyes and sees your preciousness and goes, you can do this.
Yes.
I believe in you. I believe in Jesus in you. You can do this. But at the same time goes, I need you to get up and go do this, and loves you enough to say hard things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they can't say hard things to us and we receive those, and when anybody says something really, really hard to me, I just listen to it and then I immediately go, okay, God,
Mm-hmm.
this is what they said.
Yes.
What's truth? What's not truth? What do I need to shift or do? I'm not going to take it personal. I'm just going to let him redefine it for me. But we need people that say those hard things. So even if the person says hard things and 75% of it is wrong, when I take it to God, I'm okay with that because I go, okay, the 25% in there can help me get better. And
Yes.
so I'm going to learn to do that. So that's what I look for when I am looking for people to lead me and guide me and pour into me um, in my journey, both as a believer, as a CEO, as a entrepreneur. Where are people in my life that are further ahead of me on
I
all
love
those
that.
things? And
I love
how do I put myself in their circle so that I can rub shoulders and move that direction?
I love that, Debbie. Oh my goodness. Wisdom gold, I call it, for women over 40. Stepping into more. So, Debbie, as we close, where can people get a copy of your The Heart of Legacy?
Sure. The Heart of Legacy you can get. It's free because I want to bless you guys because I don't want anybody stuck. So you can't say you're stuck after this. You can go to theheartoflegacy.com. And
Great.
it's about learning to be focused, faithful, and fearless. And it gives you wonderful steps in the middle of actions that you can do that will help you do that. And so that is my blessing to each of you to get you going on your journey or to light an additional fire, whatever it is. That's my blessing.
Great. Thank you so much. And listeners, I will make sure that's available in our show notes so that you can also get a copy of The Heart of Legacy. Debbie Simmons, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the MindShift Show today. I'm sure our listeners have really, I hope they took notes because you dropped a lot of nuggets of wisdom to help them along their path. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I hope this will not be your last. Please go to www.coachingyourgrowth.com. And this is where you will find more information about what I do. I will support you using my ICAN framework. So for today, I want to thank our guest again, Debbie Simmons, for joining us. And I hope to see the rest of you very soon. Have a wonderful and blessed day.